Welcome back to another episode of Signs and Headlines, a weekly-ish Astro Pop Culture recap. This week I have Ruby back in the hot seat with me. It's been a second, Ruby. How have you been?
I'm good. I know. I think Met Gala might have been our last breakdown. So
Which was back in May, which is hilarious considering we are now talking the day Pluto is about to station direct, and it will harken back to around that May 4th period. So we're right
I was
on
gonna say, I
time.
think it was on May 4th. It was like May 4th, May
Yes.
6th. Yes.
We're recording, as I said, today on October 13th. Venus has not moved into Libra yet. Venus is still at 29 degrees Virgo. But today, Pluto also is waking up from its retrograde slumber and coming online. And so, if you have prominent air signs, so if you've got Libra, Gemini, Aquarius in your chart, which you definitely
I was like,
do.
I was like, all your videos lately on Instagram are like CC Ruby. Every time I'm like, why don't you just at me in every video?
Add you to this email chain, take
Cardinal
me off.
signs, air placements. Check, 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 check.
Yes, if you have cardinal signs and air placements, these like I would say October is just a huge month for you. You know, we had eclipse season, of course, but then it's the idea of the dust settling after that. And now we get to see things really galvanize and take action, you know. So as I said, Venus is gonna move into Libra later, but then it's going to form with Pluto a grand air trine with Uranus in Gemini. So there's just a lot of activity, there's a lot of information, there's a lot of communication. Okay, there's a lot of idea exchange that's going to be happening over the course of the next couple of weeks. But this week specifically is going to be, you want to think about it in terms of a wrapping up type of tone and energy. We're winding down events that transpired back around like mid-July of 2023. Okay, so like during that Venus retrograde, we started. Now we're at this point. We're winding things down ahead of a new era because we've got a new moon in Libra coming up October 21st. And so you can kind of think of that being like the clean new beginning slate post eclipse season.
I feel like I write a lot already, or I have to write things down a lot already to even like keep track of everything. But now
Hmm.
it's like the rate is even higher where I'm like, I have to be just like, I feel like I'm just like putting things in iPhone notes like every 5 seconds because I'm like, I don't want this thought to escape me because I want it. So
Yeah.
there's just like a lot brewing. I feel like you say like eclipse season, you have to kind of just like let it happen.
Hmm.
It's the action time. So it's kind of one of those like, what do I kind of let absorb and wash over me? And what do I need to like actually actively work or manifest and like work with that energy?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I love that. And of course, you know, Ruby, if you're new to the program, Ruby has been on and she's done some deep dives with me. She is not a professional astrologer, although she knows a lot more than she gives herself credit for. To kind of ground our discussion today, you know, we usually with signs and headlines, what I try to do is talk about like pop culture events that have transpired over the course of the past week. But then my definition of pop culture is a little more expanded to include politics or any kind of thing that is, you know, at the water cooler these days. And in one note, my one sort of mundane political note that I wanted to highlight in this week's episode is because we are talking on the day that Pluto is stationing direct in Aquarius. So naturally, revolution is something, a theme that comes to mind. You know, we are talking about Gaza's official ceasefire. Now I'm holding my breath if that still, you know,
Mm.
is going to be in effect over the longer term. But what I did want to also say is with Pluto stationing direct, I want us all to be a little more aware of the possibility that the likelihood of a third Trump presidency could be more imminent than people might want to give it credit for. Lately, I think this was right around the full moon in Aries, actually. I think there was like a Republican housemaker or someone from Congress from Florida who had tweeted about the potential abolishing of the 22nd Amendment, making, you know, Trump a third term president, and then also tying it into the Gaza peace plan talks. You know, obviously Trump did not win the Nobel Peace Prize. That went to another person, the Venezuelan leader who is a Trump supporter. So it might as well have gone to Trump, really. It's
That's
a little
wild
bit
too.
messy
That's
out
like a
here.
wild, based on the contention between, you know, his
Hmm.
and Venezuela, and then on top of
Hmm.
and one of the few that support him. It's just like a
It's a
an
hot
odd
mess.
situation. Yes. And would you say
It,
it's more like the likelihood of just like the attempt for it is more imminent. It doesn't
mhm.
necessarily will happen, but the like campaign to move it forward.
Okay, so this is where it gets a little interesting. I think he will implement it, but whether he actually gets to be alive for that implementation, a different story.
Or even elected too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, because next year in 2027, well, I'm like next year's 2026. Next year's already going to be a big year, especially around that Feb time horizon for Trump and the administration, because you're going to start to see the first eclipses come out of the Leo Aquarius cycle. We've been in Virgo Pisces since Jan of this year. It formally switches over in July next year, but we're gonna get like a sneak preview almost, and it's gonna coincide with, Saturn and Neptune coming together officially in Aries. So this year we kind of got a glimpse of it, but we never got the exact conjunction. We felt it close back in July. We're gonna feel it in Feb. So just to give people a sense of, listen, I know this was a pretty brutal year overall, um, but not to say that things will still be worse. But
Mhm.
I kind of can't see there being like a meaningful big change in the way we would want change to be implemented for the long term until like 2027.
Fair enough.
So, this year is sort of a big unraveling and awakening. And you can kind of think about this past full moon in Aries moment on October 6th as this culmination of maybe this last stranglehold of power.
Yeah. And I think this coming weekend, like you and I were catching up, we both have travel plans, but I think this coming weekend is like the next like really large scale plan of like a no kings protest nationally. So that's also interesting,
Mhm.
you know,
Yes, it makes
have like
sense, right?
more
Yeah.
um like effect. You know what I mean? Like more of an impact
Yeah.
around this time period too.
I'm so glad you mentioned the no kings because, when you think of Venus in Libra, there is, yes, there's a lot about social pleasantries, events, creativity, all these things, right? And we're definitely going to get into all the pop culture girlies, which we will dedicate most of this episode to. Um, but there's also a lot about social justice and equality and the fight for what's right. And that now galvanized by Pluto that's woken up. Pluto is now out of bounds to the south. It is looking to reform. It is looking to rebalance position or power back to the people. So you can kind of think about whatever attempts at revolution that the people are going to bring to the table, that's going to hold more impact now. It's actually going to make a dent. So it's interesting again. We get the ceasefire talks. We get the exchange of hostages. And we're also getting this No Kings Parade. Like it is all still part of the revolutionary fervor, but I just don't want people to get caught off guard when the powers
Yes.
that be are trying to death rattle and still hold on, and it's like brutal AF. So that is my politics message for the week. But now we get to dive into some really juicy, fun things. So obviously today it's hard not to talk about pop culture without talking about Taylor Swift. And you and I haven't necessarily caught or gotten a chance to catch up on what you thought of the album. Obviously, I have my episode with Maria Elena out right now. You want to go check that out. But I forget, are you a Swiftie, Ruby?
I love her music, generally speaking. I'm not
Hmm.
like a diehard stan. We're going to be recording an episode later today about who I am
Yes.
and for things I stan. Victoria Beckham, the Olsen twins, Hilary Duff, J-Lo. Not
Ruby runs an amazing podcast, No One's Guilty Pleasure Pod, that
on
is a lot
Spotify for
about
now.
nostalgia, pop culture. So it's a different kind of pop culture girly, I would say
Yeah.
Ruby's a fan of.
I'm firmly in last century or the millennium. But no, I really enjoy her music. I think, I was born in 1990, not 1989, but the fact that she's very close to my age and much of my friends' age, I think that there's always going to be part of her journey that has like a parallel to whatever a lot of women my age are going through because
Hmm.
you're just facing the same things. Like I think Adele had that for like a lot of people too around the same age where you were going
Hmm.
through milestones at the same time.
Hmm.
So I really enjoy her music, but I'm not like she's the end all be all. She's done no wrong. Again, when we record Victoria Beckham, whatever you say to me when we're recording, I'm gonna be like, she didn't do anything wrong. I didn't see that. She's perfect. What are you talking about? So I understand the Swiftie energy. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I listened to the album, and one of my friends, I have like now influence from, talking with other people, but one of my friends said it really well is that the aesthetic didn't really match the music in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
like maybe sonically,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, yes, the concept of being a showgirl is like there's ups, there's downs, there's like who you are on stage, who you are backstage when you're home, and like, all the makeup and the costumes are off and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I think also with like the selling of the Max Martin and shellback of it, like, everybody was hoping they were going to have a 1989 or something like in the vein of a Reputation Lover Pop, some
Mm-hmm.
more that pure pop era of hers. And she's
Mm-hmm.
experimenting with like a lot of sounds. And obviously, music is only so finite, how many chords there are and how many ways you can like produce something. But a lot of it
Mm-hmm.
just felt like I was hearing imitations of other people. I
Mm-hmm.
think that was like a common thing people said. Like, I don't have really like any original take on it, but I think I'm in agreement with that. And so
Mm-hmm.
there's songs that I liked from it that I'll probably like listen to, but it might kind of just be like a, not when I go back to as like a whole album per se.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. I would say I had the same reaction. So I recorded that episode like a day after the album dropped, right? So like every reaction was very fresh. And so now we're talking a week out of, the album release. The album has officially become the highest selling album in the modern era, beating Adele. One, I feel really annoyed by that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I have no personal skin in this game. And if you are successful at what you do, of course, like people, if there's a market and people are buying it, yeah, that's like legitimate. But just the idea that there were so many different versions of the album, there were voice notes you could add on and buy on. There was, again,
Oh,
like,
yeah. It was a lot of the marketing business scheme. It's like what? And I think that's the general backlash every time now because, and
mm-hmm.
when we get into the, what my reaction was when I saw like a headline about this new series and show. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
get
the
into
thing
that
is,
reaction.
like, okay, now I'll be canceled too. No, I'm kidding. It's already been happened, so it's fine.
Good thing we have a
So
song for that.
long ago. Aquarius rising. I don't do it for the people. I just self-isolate. No, when I saw the announcement, to be fair, and I've been thinking this a lot with like their relationship and like a lot of the different things she's taking on. And she was like this before they started dating, because she did a lot of that variant thing, I think, with like the Tortured Poets Department and maybe even was there
hmm
one before
I feel
Midnight's?
like she did Midnights.
She's in the business of it now. And I get it. Like you have to make money. They say it all the time. Artists don't make money from selling their albums anymore. They make money from touring. They make money from product partnerships. They make money from a lot of other stuff that incorporates their music. So I do respect like you have to do that. But it goes to such a degree of like how much is enough?
hmm
And again, that might just be like the little idealistic humanitarian middle class girl in me. But I'm like, how much more money do you need? How much more, accolades do you need? And why do you have to like work around it in that way?
hmm
When you think
Yeah,
of
I
like
mean,
the records
that
that
makes
they break
sense.
now,
hmm
compared to like what work went into that for someone. And again, this is gonna be so pop culture girly of me to say, but like Britney Spears selling millions of records, Madonna selling millions of records, Janet selling millions of records is very different than like what that means today. Like that was a lot
hmm
more effort back then. I think that a lot of artists now, herself included, like consolidate all of this. Like these are people that are like, and with the parasocial of it all too being so much
hmm
more um inflated, it's like
hmm
I'm optimizing on the fact that they want as much of me as they can get. And like you're controlling what that is too. So it's not like your actual, private existence per se
hmm
feel like the series and the show, her fans that are like blindly her fans are going to be like, oh my gosh, like she just gives us so much and like we love her and she knows we want more and blah, blah, blah. And like we can't get enough. But she's doing
hmm
it so that she gets more too in this, right? Like she's getting more of like these, you know, royalties or funds. And she's not an idiot. I know these contracts. She's going to make sure that she gets like what she deserves, which is correct.
hmm
whatever
Mm-hmm.
she does put out there in her products. But I keep pointing to
Mm-hmm.
these right there. So that's like where I saw the little headline when I was catching up on Dancing with the Stars,
Yes.
where her tour choreographer is a choreographer for. And
Yes.
um,
Yes.
but yeah, like I just was like, I get it, and she knows what makes her fans happy, but like she's also making sure she's got herself taken care of in the back on that too, which I respect.
Mm-hmm.
But people just sometimes only want to see like their like idealistic version of like what's happening, and it's like, no, babe, it's a business. Like life of
Mm-hmm.
a showgirl
Mm-hmm.
is life of a businesswoman, you know?
Well, at least if you think about Life of a Showgirl in this Pluto and Capricorn era, that's what this is all about. It's how much more money I can make as a part of my brand and identity. So, yeah, it was very interesting because like people were like, "What do you think she's gonna say?" Like what are the predictions? Because when like I was telling my partner this, right? Oh, did you hear that Taylor Swift, there's an announcement about an announcement? And he's like, "I'm so sorry." She has an
Or
announcement about an
yeah.
announcement. This is where we're at in society. I'm like, this is where we're at in society. But at this point, right? Like you think about, all right, Taylor Swift is in a 12th house perfection year. 12th house perfection years are so much about letting go. Okay, it's a lot about closing chapters. And I think one of the criticisms that she received with this album was it just was very bloated, right? It just kind of felt like max saturation of everything we've like kind of heard from her. There's nothing new to say. It's just, there's a lot of song references. Like, what are we really doing here? Can you really put something out if you don't have anything meaningful to say in this climate? And the thing is, when you have or when you are in a 12th house year, there is a sense of letting go of what we are so attached to that has, defined our identity over the last 12 years. And for her, a lot of this was the journey to buy her master's back, to become a legitimate artist, to become the biggest pop star in the world. And so it made sense that an announcement today, as Pluto stationed on her Venus, and the fact that we are about to have Venus, again, not in Libra yet. The announcement came at Venus at 29 degrees Virgo. She is
Mhm.
still holding on to the old, and this is part of her winding down story. So I want to give her the benefit of the doubt. I want to give her the benefit of the doubt. And sure, this is your last
Like a
cash
release
grab.
as well
Yes,
of that
exactly.
era's tour era too.
Even though you are releasing, how much is too much? Like, there's this idea of like, oh, let me be thoughtful about what I'm putting out. I think I even saw fans who had said like, oh, I can't believe she's gonna be charging us to listen to her voice notes when maybe before Gaga would literally just drop voice notes for
Yep.
free so that her monsters could appreciate it. Or, just even Cardi B. Like she has an album out, Am I the Drama, which is a great album, actually, and she's on live apologizing to fans, saying, I'm so sorry. Like, I have to, like, I dropped this album right now, and I know things are really difficult, and that, like, you have to now buy this album to support me. But, like, there's just a lot of understanding and relating to the fans, and, like, hey, I get these times are hard, so I'm going to give you everything. Even her press tour was rooted in the bodega, was $20 meets and greets. It was accessible, it was trying to connect with the people. What's happening here is Taylor Swift's fans, I think someone pointed this out. I think her name is Amanda. She does a lot of brand commentary on Instagram. It's amazing. I forget her last name, but Taylor Swift fans are millennial suburban people. And when you
Yes.
think about the demographics and how they are also ones that have benefited from Pluto and Capricorn, right? And like an amassing of wealth, disposable income, she is really just a reflection.
Yeah, as you were saying that comparison with Gaga and Cardi B, that I like could see where you were going with that immediately. Is just
Hmm.
like it's not to say that she doesn't have fans of all sorts of backgrounds, of all sorts of socioeconomic levels, but like again, her target is someone like her. And so it's a lot of like people who love like consumerism too. So like they
Hmm.
feed off of like, I'm buying this thing, I have this stuff, is what I noticed a lot
Hmm.
with like the hardcore Swifties who, like I said, the ones that say like she can do no wrong. Because you have
Yeah.
like different level of fans of everything. And so yeah, those like very hard,
Yeah.
it's like, no, she's me, like I relate to this, a lot of the same background, all of that. And like taking it all in. And I will say one positive for some Swifties. I was at a wedding on that full moon last Sunday, the 6th.
Yeah,
And a
yeah.
big family that they're all Swifties. And actually, one of the siblings of the bride, he got to go to like one of the 1989 listening sessions back then,
Oh.
talking about accessibility to fans, by the way.
Yeah, yeah,
For
yeah.
like hardcore Swifties. And I mean, when the songs are good, they're great for a wedding.
Mm-hmm.
We did
Oh,
them
they
all.
hit. They
We
hit.
did Love Story, Cruel Summer,
Yeah.
Shake It Off. It was all happening. So
Yeah.
I'll do
And
like
those
one
were
compliment
good.
through the yeah. Like we by the way, we thought that they'd add in Life of a Showgirl because it was coming out that weekend and there was none.
Yep.
There were none for the dance floor.
I was gonna say, do you have any favorites from the album or anything from the album?
Yes. Yes. I like Honey a lot. Like it's the catchiness of
Mm-hmm.
that one. Again, like the
Mm-hmm.
lyrics I hadn't like I didn't dived into as much. That verb always gets me. Um, so it's more like sonically what I like. A lot of my friends this weekend, they love Wood. They said they like the millennial cringe of it. I cannot relate.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, because they were playing it on a loop this weekend, I
Oh my
did hear myself
God.
humming it today, and I was like, God damn it. Like I'm supposed to avoid this. I think Honey is really the one that I took away from it. And like the softer one, like the more low tempos. Like I liked sonically like Ruin the Friendship. Sonically, I
Mm-hmm.
liked Eldest Daughter, the lyrics, I like
Mm-hmm.
that. I'm not in that
Mm-hmm.
side of a mood, so I guess. And also actually romantic sonically, really
Mm-hmm.
good. But it sounds like
Mm-hmm.
it's an Olivia Rodrigo song. See, like that's the problem is I'm like, that doesn't sound like it's a Taylor
Ooh,
Swift song.
brutal,
I
brutal
know, I
name to
know,
say in
I
these
know.
parts.
And I did like title track like Life of a Showgirl and I love me some Sabrina.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really going to take a lot away from this, like
Yeah, yeah,
of
yeah.
songs that I keep. Like I'm a big Reputation's always been my favorite. And so that's why I'm also like, she has been able to like, and I like Lovers. She has been able to write
Mm-hmm.
really cute, fun, cohesive music in
Yes.
other relationships. And even for Travis, like The Alchemy and So High School from the last album, I enjoy
Mm-hmm.
much more than some of these.
Mm-hmm.
But like, yes, she's having fun, she's engaged, all the things are happening. Like you said, maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
just like a write-off of like, hopefully, let's leave silly goose energy over here.
It's hard for me to really tell like where she really is right now, whether this album was a true declaration of this is me and I'm owning it, so fuck all you all, like, and this is what I want to do, and I'm still gonna be successful at it because this is still the highest selling album of all time in the modern era. So like, I don't know. I don't know where this leaves her. But what I do like, or what I thought was very cute, was obviously amidst the album launch or in the build up to the album launch, she or maybe it was Selena had revealed like pictures of Taylor and her at the wedding, and Taylor's like in the bridal
Yes,
party.
that was Selena.
Yes, which I thought was very cute because Selena then also like posted about the album, supporting the album on her grid, which is something I
Hmm.
must say Sabrina Carpenter has not done. Do you buy Taylor and Selena's like friendship?
I don't know what I think of their friendship like between them, like what that
Hmm.
is, I'm sure like
Hmm.
it's sincere and it's some variation of something of like support, maybe understanding because they both have such unique experiences that only they can both get, in
Hmm.
terms of relating
Hmm.
to one another. But I always find it interesting because it's like when she's doing all the stuff leading up to the wedding, Selena, um, she's always had like this core friend group that you see on social media, like these girls
Hmm.
that have always been her friends for years and years. And it's kind of like when you're a fan of anyone, you start to like recognize people, you're like, oh, that's that girl again, like
Hmm.
Cindy, Ashley, Stacy, whoever. And like she had one of the best friends that's always on the cooking show too, Raquel. Like I think that girl is probably like one of her core, like true, like this is my everyday best friend that's with me all the
Hmm.
time. Um, and I think they all have like kind of like a like religious connection together. Like they all go to church together. So like there's like a lot of like this is my friend group, like these are my best friends. But she could also have like this Taylor is one of my best friends in terms of like
Hmm.
at work, like in the field. You know what I mean? It's like we
Hmm.
have a friendship that's spurned out of like what we do for a living, like our calling, which is very
Hmm.
different. And so, because I never see the reason I bring this up is you never see Taylor like at that bachelorette party with those girls. And I don't think
Hmm.
they would like not include her in the pictures intentionally. She's like, don't put me in the socials. You know what I mean? And I think Honestly, I might relate to Taylor in the fact that I think she does really well with like having a really good one-on-one relationships or like 2 to 3
Mm,
people versus
mm-hmm,
like a lot of girls are more like Selena, where it's like I have like my group and like I just stick with my group. Because like, you think of
mm.
Taylor and not to say anything, Blake Lively, or like Taylor and Gigi, or Taylor,
Allegedly
like
reconciling.
sure. Well, I think so. I
Mm-hmm,
mean, if she's the godmother to their kids, like I would hope
mm-hmm,
that's something
mm-hmm,
you can get past, especially at that age. But she has a lot of really good like one-on-one. Her and Ed Sheeran, like she has a lot of like one-to-one relationships, and it's like all those people aren't all friends with each other per se.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
like it was kind of cute. Like, oh yeah, she was like kind of in the glam room while Selena was getting ready for her wedding and like, admiring her and, like supporting her and stuff. But I do find it interesting that it's always she can't be like in that, participate in that group. She has great etiquette. She's been sending sourdough bread to Zoe Kravitz and this person and that person.
mm-hmm.
She can really like, ingratiate herself to people, but like in terms of like deep bond, I feel like she does a lot better like on these like single
Mm.
fronts per se.
That's interesting because she does have the Jupiter moon conjunction Taylor, which we are in a Jupiter moon conjunction as well. So it does make sense that there is like the intimacy in, a secure, like one-on-one type of dynamic. Yeah, I've never like observed that naturally. I think, when I looked at their synastry together, Selena and Taylor, it was kind of like when you have like opposing Mars, for example, Saturn on the North Node, Chiron on the South Node, like it just felt a little maybe more tense than I would have given them credit
Yeah,
for over the
I
course
can see
of
that.
their relationship. So I'm like, oh yeah, well, she's at her wedding. Like I think I would have expected Taylor to be at the wedding. I wouldn't have necessarily expected Taylor to speak at the wedding, but I think it
Oh, I
makes a
didn't
lot of
hear that part.
sense. Taylor
Yeah.
spoke at the wedding, and Taylor, I think, made like a lot of jokes about how Selena's fashion back then was, the skinny jeans and the vest and the Converse, and Taylor's was like, um, I think country junior prom.
Yeah.
And there was, jokes about how Selena's now like beaten her to the aisle, but they obviously like have gone through this journey together. She references like that July 4th picture that they were all at.
Yes. I do
Uzo
remember
was
that.
there too, and it's like on to Kansas City, and that like changed everything. That also obviously happened during like that July 2023 horizon. So if you notice what I
Interesting.
said earlier, we are in
Mhm.
this last quarter Cancer moon at today that stems from that time. So we are winding down what was really the core of experience between July 2023 and now, which now has culminated in a wedding. It has culminated in the Eras documentary. It's culminated in an engagement. So like you kind of just see all of these things come under or in the post aftermath of this Aries full moon last week. So, and Selena's an Aries moon also. How
Our
about
girl.
that?
I was gonna say, actually, when you bring that up and then the elements of the speech, that's very interesting. It has like that like slightly competitive nature. And I mean, also, I think that's
Mm-hmm.
defining quality of Taylor is like everything is a competition, which is why I think that there isn't
Mm,
really that like I can like fall into a group because I'm like main character energy. Like again, I'm saying all this like
yeah.
neutrally. I'm not saying this in criticism or in
Mm-hmm.
favor of, but just like there are people who are like that where it's like it's always about the competition, it's always about the win. And so there is something to like we met our boyfriends at the same time and you're married first and you're, 4 years younger than me. Whereas like I
Mm-hmm.
think but they both seem to have like pretty polarizing personalities in opposite ways. And maybe it's like that thing where like the fact that because they have like the sun moon conjunction, right? Like Cancer moon, Cancer sun is
They
is
do,
Taylor
but
Cancer moon, right?
Cave Taylor's a Cancer moon. And from a whole sign perspective, elementally, yes, they have that conjunction. But when you look at the degrees, Selena is like
Oh, okay.
basically about to be a Leo. She's a
Okay.
29 Cancer.
Okay.
And Taylor's moon is, in theory, if we don't know her time, it's like up in early Cancer land.
Okay.
So it's almost like you can kind of think that they might not actually really see eye to eye. there
Fair.
might be a little bit of, oh, maybe we think we're on the same page, but we might not. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, because I was just thinking too, like in the most basic, like rudimentary of astrology too, is like, okay, fire, sun, water, moon, water, sun, fire, moon. Like those are two different ways of operating, right? And so it's like
Hmm.
you just said you think you understand each other because you share that, but like how you present yourself
Hmm.
versus how you react to things, they're growing in different directions as well. So it is
Hmm.
just like and that's a common thing in friendship. They both, I think, care a little too much about public perception. They're never
They
gonna
do.
not officially be friends, which also you might
Hmm.
like the Taylor Blake thing too. Um,
Hmm.
they're never not going to officially be friends, but I think that they've just reached a point, and I think this is like healthy too. Like I don't think everything needs to be like all or nothing or continuous. Like,
Hmm.
listen, you saw me through like the roughest parts of my life because they both were
Hmm.
pretty close friends theoretically, during kind of like that 20, let's say like 2014 and 2017, where they both were like this, as anybody in their
Hmm.
late 20s is. This
Hmm.
is just like on a public platform to millions of people. And so you're going to have like that fondness for like, you were there for me in that time, but we don't need to be in each other's lives daily. Choosing her to speak
Hmm.
at the wedding is a wild choice. I'm sure she wasn't the only person who spoke at the wedding
Ed
either,
Ed spoke to
Okay.
Ed
At
Sheeran.
Selena's wedding. Oh, well,
Ed
then, yeah.
Celine.
Okay. That
Yes,
makes more sense.
yes,
Okay, okay.
yes.
But again, that's like a business vibe. You don't know. Sometimes people have like more personal events where it's like this is like my actual friends and family vibe,
Hmm.
versus this is the
Hmm.
event part. And,
Hmm.
and ironically makes like more sense in that regard. But yeah, like I don't understand how people keep choosing Taylor to speak at these things because like at the Margaret and Jack Antonoff one, when I just read like Taylor spoke for 15 minutes, I said that's unacceptable. You could
That's
be
a
the
long
best,
time.
you could be the best, most eloquent speechwriter and speaker of all time. No wedding on earth should you ever be speaking more than three. And I go to a lot of weddings. Should you ever be speaking more than 3 to 5 minutes? I did go to a wedding where a bridesmaid did speak for 15 minutes and it was horrible. Like, because you might laugh the first few times or you might do like a
Oh my
polite laugh
God.
here or there. And then to bring
Yeah.
yourself into it, I think that's always also really um like lack of self-awareness. Like if
Mm.
I've spoken already before too. Like it should only be about the bride, of course, like your friendship, but like why you're friends with this person, why there's
Hmm.
I would not be like, and here I am, like, on my journey to figure it out. Like I would never
Yeah.
like that's a very and that's like
Yeah.
usually my also like bone to pick with Taylor Swift in like a performer artist level too is like she always think
Hmm.
there are people who are like that like this how does this impact me, like what is it about me instead of like thinking about
Hmm.
themselves.
That's very interesting. But the last thing I'll say about this Selena Gomez, oh well, Taylor Swift and Selena Gomez together, because I didn't get a chance to talk about the wedding before. The wedding transits for Selena's day. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if I would have necessarily chosen these transits for a wedding, but you know, everyone's on their own journey, and maybe this is a matrimony or a relationship that's gonna go the distance, Lisa Barlow. But I must admit, when I see a Venus square moon, when I see Mars square Pluto that day, it sure can indicate a lot of growth, and maybe that's indicative of Selena growing into a more mature relationship. Maybe she finally feels secure, safe, and this is like a really powerful moment that she reclaims all of this for herself. I just would imagine it feeling difficult, more difficult than maybe what is being presented out via pictures and things like that. So I don't know.
Sure.
I'm always still a little skeptical, but that's just me.
Yeah. And it might be that that's like what she needs to, because I
Hmm.
think she might have felt like some of those other relationships that weren't good for her were easy to get in and out of. Like
LOL,
sometimes like
Justin Bieber.
no. Exactly. It's like sometimes what even though it's wrong, like we
Hmm.
all go through that. Speaking of just
Hmm.
thinking it, like I'll just self-relate, you think of it, you're like, oh, I've been with this kind of person before. Like I know what it's like. And a lot of people, they're like, this is comfortable, even though it's
Hmm.
wrong. And so it
Hmm.
might just be like she's a person that needs a little bit of like that discomfort all the time to challenge herself. Because I also kind of remember
Hmm.
back watching her documentary, the My Mind and Me documentary on Apple TV.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like, and that kind of goes with the Taylor of it all, is like their different approaches. It's like she realized like there are too many yes people and she needs people that are like, no,
No.
like you can do
Mm-hmm.
better than this. Like you don't need to make this about you. You need to like try a little harder to really like work out of like your comfort zone a bit. So
Mm-hmm.
I think, and like
Mm-hmm.
probably respects like what he does as a musician too, respects like all of his like natural intelligence when it comes to like music, food, art, all these different things, you know? She
Mm-hmm.
needs someone that's not so exactly like her, but that also understands like the environment from like that she comes from as well. And this is also
Yeah.
like an interesting weekend because I think Haley and Justin's anniversary is like this same weekend, more or less, like a couple days.
Yep. They can't
I don't know that
escape.
that's like super intentional because, you know, we were texting about it and it's like, this is a super common weekend to get married because it's like fall. So, like, people love the weather,
Mm-hmm.
nice everywhere you go, you know, all of that stuff. It's far
Mm-hmm.
away from like summer holidays to travel for. So, it
It
could be
is
a chance, but,
interesting. It is
you know, there's always a little petty
interesting.
still in her.
I mean, Cancer Queen, 29 Cancer Queen, we will never let go. Yeah, it is very fascinating. And the last thing I'll say is obviously there were also reports about like her mom and maybe her mom's like whether it's substance abuse at work or just how she showed up at work
Oh,
or
that
absence at work.
article.
Like, yeah, those things were coming out at the same time of the wedding, which I can see as very Mars Pluto square. And maybe that was also what was, you know what I mean? Like under the surface, like we're not going to talk about it. This is my big day. But
Yeah.
I can't imagine it being easy to navigate, right? Like this is my wedding day, but then also the white noise of mom drama that has now been made public. So that's a very Mars Pluto thing as well. And here's the thing, they got married on Mars Pluto. Selena also posted about Mercury, Pluto, or Taylor Swift and revealed like pictures from from the wedding around that full moon in
Okay.
Aries as well. So we have one more Sun Pluto coming up on the week of October 21st, and that's gonna again feature that new moon in Libra, which is gonna, I wonder if she like comes out with new music or something, or like there's just like a launch that's imminent that's coming here. Just because she's got that Aries moon that's going to be very much activated. Maybe it's like, not to say pregnancy and stuff, but Venus and Jupiter in Cancer will be conjunct one more time next year in June on her sun. So that could be quite cute when it comes to like children and things like that. So just, pay attention, next week. June, like these are going to be important times for Selena's chart, but especially next year when the nodes move into Leo and Aquarius, like, you can kind of naturally see there is a transformation of family happening. So congratulations to Selena. I hope that it is a matrimony and a commitment that does last and gives you what you need and that you can work through some difficult transits in your best interests. Because usually that's if you work with difficult transits, you tend to be rewarded for it. So,
And the fashion was
yes.
on point. I really
And the
liked
what?
the fashions were on point. All of her
Oh my
dresses
God.
were
Yeah.
really nice because I wasn't, and
Stunning.
I find it ironic that Taylor had that speech because I was like, Taylor's hair looked like she was Kirsten from American Girl Dolls. And then you have Selena looking like very chic and timeless, you know, at her
Oh my
wedding. I
God.
love all the Ralph Lauren.
It
I
looks
love
so
that she
good.
did like the little like, because I feel like she's kind of like J-Lo. She always likes like old Hollywood stuff. So her little halter dress at
Yes.
the end with the flash.
Yes.
Sorry, I was like,
Yes.
wait, I
The
have to just say
fashion,
the
the
fashion was
Libra.
great. Like all three of them. Yeah,
Yes.
all three looks I
Well,
loved.
it maybe there's something to be said about a bridal line that like she would have a
I think
successful bridal
I think
line.
she leans like when you were saying what might come to announcement next week.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
really admire like her way of doing the business with Rare Beauty. That feels very
Mm-hmm.
to me. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
she's making products, but they're very true to her, like down to the, you know, making them easy to open because she has lupus, making
Mm-hmm.
things that are simple and like tying it to mental health funding. Like there's something that comes way more naturally when she's leaning into business propositions that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
feel as like greed oriented as like, and not just put that on Taylor Swift, but like, you know, we've talked about Reese Witherspoon and like how many acquisitions she does and how much she's like a business person. And now she's like talking about reading about AI, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
there's like that like intense vibe, but like Selena's feels much more natural, you know, like this
So
is something she's passionate about.
Selena doesn't have cap. Just kidding. She does. She has Neptune and Uranus, but that's like generational. But she doesn't have
Yeah.
like Taylor's cap stellium, and like I
Yes.
think Reese has like a cap moon, right, or something in her chart.
Yeah.
So like anytime you have like a prominent cap, there is, especially coming out of a Pluto and Capricorn era, there is the propensity to monetize or like think about it from that perspective. Like it's all about the business. But you're so right. Like Selena had that makeup bag, right? That she
Mhm.
launched with Rare Beauty
Yes.
that was like your makeup wedding day prep pack or something, which she wanted to share with her fans. This is what I used. I did. Like Kid Taylor is not wearing that Life of a Showgirl lightning bolt necklace or
Correct.
or a cap that says I protect the family. Switching gears to, well, I would say maybe some more mess, because we are both housewives girls, and this week, in the aftermath of the full moon in Aries, we're going to be talking specifically about Julia Lemigova on The Real Housewives of Miami and her Haitian mortician and her alleged affair with Adriana, a fellow housewife. And then we're also going to be talking about Wendy Osefo, who her and her husband Eddie, Happy Eddie, were arrested on allegations of fraud after a reported burglary. Now, there's a lot of interesting timing and cyclicality with that one that I'll get into from a moon family perspective, but let's maybe start with Julia.
Wish I had seen it live. It's so hard now with like how immediately everybody reacts to everything. So I get
Hmm.
like all the reactions first and I don't get to like have it wash over me. So I had already just seen like all weekend because I didn't watch it till yesterday, like Haitian mortician, Haitian mortician, Haitian mortician.
Yes.
Like, what is going on? And of course, Adriana's face is behind it, so you never know what could be happening.
Yes.
So it was
She's very loose, Sagittarius.
very Sagittarius.
Hmm.
And I think like I don't think Julia's equipped to go up against her. Julia's doing a very good like, and this is just me alluding to like very basic stereotypes of whole signs is like she's doing very good like cancer victim, situation.
Mm.
I love
Hmm.
Adriana. I've really just tried to be her friend forever, and she's so evil and like we all know that person who does that.
Yeah.
Trying to like draw this narrative. I've said like if you watch back Miami, because Miami's becoming my new Real Housewives like comfort watch, where like I rewatch the
Yeah.
episodes. When you watch it in succession, like she is again bringing it back to always making it about her. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like
Hmm.
didn't know anything about where her kids go to school or what they do with their lives in the first season, and it's like all over Adriana and not her wife. Second season, her wife, the kids leave and suddenly she misses her kids and her wife's like, "Hey, can we like have dinner together?" She's like, "No, I don't want to." Then her wife gets
Mm.
sick and she's still missing like her wife's sessions so that she can do this opera for her, but it's really about her doing, like it's just
Mm.
always somehow it's magically about her. And I think it's also very revealing that they brought back all that footage from old seasons that they haven't shown of her like having violent outbursts prior. That's very like
Mm.
there's a lot of like again pretending like it's just woe is me. I'm just like this nice sweet woman. And it's like no, you're also causing mess too, girl.
Yeah, here's the thing, I know that Julia is a Scorpio rising. She told me in the DMs a long time ago. She
Good to know.
is, but I don't have her time, so I can't like comment specifically, right? And in theory, that would still give her a Capricorn moon. So, you know,
Mm,
Scorpio rising, Capricorn moon, Cancer, Sun. Cancer's like she's a full moon baby, which naturally means complicated relationship dynamics, complicated relationships with women, with family. So, like, you kind of do see that all come on full display. She also has Mars in Cancer, 28 degrees, Mars on her south node. This year, we had a Mars retrograde in the winter in Cancer and Leo, which would have been pretty gnarly. Okay. And for Julia, she would also have had Pluto going on top of that Mars in Cancer over the last couple of years. So a lot of things can be true at once. Is Julia not as innocent as she pretends? Absolutely. Was Julia navigating complicated family dynamics and maybe a sense of belonging, feeling safe? Absolutely. Was there maybe even the idea of, not to say abuse with Adriana, but a complicated friendship dynamic with Adriana that could be evocative of mom or someone like a bullying situation. I don't want to say Adriana's like totally innocent here as well, but it is just striking because this feels like the downfall of Julia. Like I feel like this is the last season we're gonna see of Julia. I know based on the way producers are editing, bringing up all the receipts. Same treatment with Gertie on some level too.
Yeah, I think it's 50-50 if they bring her back. Like there's clearly Andy has like a favoritism to her, and we know how that works with, usually the
Mm.
ones he favors are ones I like, so I don't care. But
Do you think he favors her?
there was something in that, like he was giving her a lot more of the benefit of the doubt than he does a lot of other people. And people allude to the fact like that he's such a
Mm.
fan of Martina and like the star power behind Martina too, that it's like it's more that they don't want to lose Martina and like this like other connect to, how we were talking about like different avenues of pop culture, different audiences, like all this stuff.
Yeah.
With the just to go back real quick to the Adriana piece, it's like
Yeah.
obviously Adriana Demora is not an innocent human. That's why we love her
Yeah.
on screens. Like she is a menace, but she's that theme that I always say, I'd rather you be fully yourself and be like very imperfect and make mistakes and do things. Cause like her in the finale too, like she made a lot of really weird choices with Kiki and her friend and all this stuff that I did not
Hmm.
care for at all. But
Hmm.
she's always herself. Like, she has so many dimensions to her and she lets you see all those dimensions. Like you see her, be a like big flirt, what have you. You see her like blur the lines and like, toss grenades once in a while. But you see her also like
Hmm.
knowing all of this history about art and knowing all these cultures and like educate very Sagittarius too, like knowing about all these
Hmm.
different backgrounds and everything. Like she's like a very full formed person in that sense. And I think that's what happens in external perceptions of relationships is that when someone observes two people and they see one person who's like very strong and direct and like comfortable in who they are and very loud about it and sometimes
Hmm.
being aggressive or making mistakes, they always
Hmm.
like default to the weakling or like the poor sensitive
Hmm.
sweet one when that like we're saying isn't as innocent and sweet as they pretend to be.
Julia is always going to maybe try to find where the position of power is to feel the sense of belonging. So even though it might feel callous to Adriana, it's like you used me to get here. It's like, well, now that we're here in this environment, I'm gonna find other people that like I feel safe with or feel like I can align better with now that, there's also this affair that's happened,
Which I don't think is real.
which
I'm sure they made out.
I
I
think
don't think
there's
they had an
def
affair.
it's like one of those like a complicated girlfriend dynamics, you know what I mean? Like very Carly Kloss and Taylor Swift coded. You know what I mean? Like where
Yes,
maybe there was a point where things blurred boundaries, but then that was
sure.
confusing. And when you look at Julia's chart, she's got Venus in the eighth house and not just and Venus retrograde in Gemini. So it does speak to a different way of relating to people, a curiosity about people. Not to say that if you have that, you are queer, but it naturally speaks to a counterculture way of approaching relationships, and that you're always going to kind of be thinking about your sexuality in a different way. With Mars and Cancer, again, it's like women dynamics, like comfortable, uncomfortable. I'm not really sure what to do here, but there is an enmeshment. And I can imagine that the shame that like Julia was saying, like this person was blackmailing me, Adriana was blackmailing me, that she would like reveal to everyone when we had this. I found to be really unfair because that's very Scorpio rising or like this Scorpio thing of I'm superimposing the fear that I have around something I did wrong onto other people, even though they're not actively doing it. They are saying their preferences, but then my fear is what's getting hold of the narrative, and now you're the bad guy in my story because I don't want to. Like, it was not my fault, but there should be more accountability.
Yes, I completely agree with that. Blurred boundaries, I don't think it was a full-blown affair.
Hmm.
It's discussed in the episode that, Julie and Martina were having trouble in the relationship at the time. It wasn't
Hmm.
the only time she stepped out either. It wasn't just
Hmm.
Adriana. But
Haitian mortician.
the Haitian mortician, I will say, I will always love the camp of Miami because, like everyone's like, did you scissor? Like, what did you do? And
Oh
it's like,
yeah,
it's so
yeah, yeah.
stupid, but it's like also like, when I think
Levity.
of like Latin culture and stuff, like especially like older generations, it's like, yeah, they want to know like the graphic details. They're like, just tell us like what is this, and we'll tell you if it's cheating or not. Like it's just
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah, yeah,
stupid.
yeah.
And when she gave her the box with the heart, like I love Adriana's little like uh
Hmm.
stupidities, like the Marisol's liver abuse. Like I love that. Like you
Yeah,
need a
yeah,
little bit of
yeah.
a laugh there. And I do wonder, like, you were talking about Adriana versus Alexei and Marisol. That's like only in New Era, which is what I find interesting because they were very aligned in the first iteration
Mm.
of the show. Like Alexia and Marisol were in her wedding to Frederick, and like Marisol
Yes,
gave her,
yes.
Elsa's mantilla, all this stuff. Like there was something, and it might have been an alliance thing because that's when Marisol and Adriana were against Leah. So it was like
Yeah.
it might have all just been bullshit the whole time, but even at the beginning of season 4, which is where I am in my yet again rewatch, they're still kind of all buddies, and so it is really
Yeah.
interesting like where that took a turn. But yeah, Julia, I would actually just be interested to see like we've been talking about the aftermath of things. Like
Hmm.
it'd be interesting to see one more season to see where that goes.
I hope Julia does come back for one more season because, as I said earlier, we've got a new moon in Libra coming up next week. So you're probably going to see some, like, it makes sense because that will also coincide, I think, with like the last reunion airing. When I think about Martina and Julia together, I mean, look at that. Ju Martina's got a 25-degree Libra sun, Neptune conjunct that Libra at 29 degrees, squaring Julia's Mars in Cancer, nodes like it just doesn't really feel like this. I don't know. There's just going to be a natural dissolving. Maybe they decide they want to start over again. Who knows? But from what I've heard, not so much. One thing I will also say is Martina did post that really interesting, controversial tweet about surrogacy and how like basically she was anti-surrogacy, um, which obviously Andy
Which,
has used a
yeah,
surrogate, which I thought that was very artful Gemini of him to not involve his own perspective in it, but just the idea of, well, you've used a surrogate, Lisa. How did that make you feel? And like, so I can't imagine Andy would wanting anything to do with Martina after that point, you know? So
that's
that's
fair.
why it's almost like, all right, Julia, I don't really see, like, I naturally see a severance on family here. And I do think it's gonna be Martina and her splitting, even though they have these two young kids, which it is what it is.
That whole situation is concerning. I can't even dig into that. We don't have the time.
Yeah, but when I look at Julia's chart, she has that Pluto at 29 degrees in Virgo, and that was what was activated at that last eclipse in Virgo on September 21st. And when I think about the fact that, she's got Uranus in the 12th house, and obviously there's all this talk about a Haitian mortician. Pluto in
Ugh,
Virgo, and like when I think about Uranus, like an unexpected figure, like a secret figure, right? Like getting revealed, like it's just so on
it
brand.
comes back. It's the Haitian mortician.
Wendy this week was also another housewife in the media because she and Eddie were allegedly arrested. The mugshot looks insane. Like, I love a good housewife mugshot. That just is
That one will
super
be
messed
forever in
up.
history. The high
That
pony on
one's a good
one
one.
will be
She
forever in
was
history. The
smiling,
side
Eddie's
pointing.
smiling.
It
It's
was
a
very
lot of
Kelly
good stuff.
Kapowski coded. Like she looked like she should have been Saved by the Bell with the
Oh
like
my
side
God.
pony. And
Yes. And actually, I'm like watching Potomac the previous season right now just to catch up to watch the new season because like the whole Karen stuff kind of like put me off. So like I had to just like pause, but then now I'm like, all right, I'm back in because it's like there's more stuff. But what I wanted to say was, this was a full moon in Aries again, October 6th. It's only been a week since this full moon in Aries, but this full moon in Aries does trace back to the solar eclipse back around April 7th, April 8th of 2024, the eclipse, which for Wendy was interesting because that was when they had filed the report for their robbery when they had come back from vacation. And so, and you even think about it in the context of Pluto. Back in May, Pluto went underground. So you can maybe imagine that there being a moment in the investigation and then, like over diving in deeper. But then now Pluto's coming back online. It's like, ta-da, we've revealed everything that we found. And now you're actually just going to jail because you've been accused of fraud, which is wild because I'm like, where's Dorit?
no, the memes about Dorit where they're like, uh-oh, or when they're like, how are Dorit and PK smarter, allegedly, than Wendy and Eddie? I could not stop laughing. I was like,
Yes.
this is insane.
It's
I
so true though. Like, what?
exactly. Well, You know what's hilarious is like when I was in peak, I can't stand the Kemsleys. This was
Yeah.
before the burglary that happened to them. They had this joint confessional where I said they look like a, like a B camp movie version of like two criminals because she had like the
Mm,
weird like not like train announcer hat, but she had like a weird newsboy cap with like this crazy black and white top. And, he just always looked sketchy. So I was like, they look like criminals in like a silly, like Danny DeVito movie right now. Like, and then of course, all those allegations began. But I think it's
hmm
huge shockwaves. Obviously, like I live in Virginia, very close to like Potomac, Maryland area. And so like these housewives have always been like very resonant, with my friends and I, because these are places we know or we know people
hmm
we know of them through other people as well. Like there are a lot of like 6 degrees of separation here. And the
hmm
biggest thing I'm hearing back, and I agree with, is that you really like cannot throw stones in glass houses because Wendy as a cast member has always positioned herself on like a very high moral ground. Really like I'm a respectable member of my community. I'm here to be an educator. And I did feel like last season, I was like, where are you going with like your journey? Because all of a sudden,
hmm
she was like, I don't want to be a professor anymore. I just want to have this
hmm
talk show, or I just want Eddie to do his cannabis business or all this. And she just was like moving already. And I mean, I guess that was probably in alignment with all of these events in a way where
hmm
I was like, you're not really the person that you purported, like that you were really emphatic personally of wanting to represent on the show. Like she said, like, I want to bring in this person who's different, who's like an
hmm
academic, who's an educator, who also has fun, but like whose mission is very different from these other women. And then she just ended up doing the same thing, right? Like doing candle lines and doing a talk show
hmm
and doing a nightclub with Peter, which is also a joke that started to run into where people like, were they trying to scam each other and it didn't work out? Like
Mm,
like she just kind of like went off in this other path. And so I think that's like what makes it really sad too, is like they in those early seasons like had this like strong marriage and like, really emphasizing like their educations and their culture and the parenting. And then they just were like, let's be baddies, and like just went off into this other brand
mm,
completely. And and again, similar to what you're talking about, Julia, sometimes people want to like liberate themselves from the expectations of others, but not this way.
mm. I think I said this on Bravo and Cocktails one time, but if you are a housewife with like significant Taurus placements, or like, Venus and Taurus in this case, Mercury and Taurus, Taurus Sun, or again, anything with Taurus, Teresa Giudice, Alexia Napola, right? Like, resources become a more important theme and conversation in your life. How much do I really need? She did go through her Pluto square, she's in her Neptune square. She is like in the thick of her midlife transit. So there's a sense of a course correction happening. You never want to see someone arrested. You never, especially like a mom in this situation, a black woman on camera, like you never want any of these things to happen. And I know that there are rumors or people talking about, is this even fair? Like, oh, are they just kind of making this, is this like a witch hunt? But again, the reality is like the evidence seems pretty damning in terms of insurance fraud. So it's just hard to justify.
Yeah, at a minimum, there are certain charges that are seemingly very clear, but it is
Mm-hmm.
the like, the immediacy of it, the immediate take into custody, like the treatment of such people as well,
Mm-hmm.
like needs to be mindful and respectful as well.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
kind of how we're saying like this hasn't happened to Dorit and PK, and it's like, yes, these are, you know, two white people in Southern California, very different from being people of color in the Mid-Atlantic, outside of DC, in Potomac,
Mm-hmm.
with like the culture, like the political climate as well. So it is harsh because you think back to Karen, I mean, that was necessary because she was on her fourth DUI at this point.
Yeah.
That's like not even made an example. Like that's you need to be held accountable. You've done this 3 prior times.
Yeah.
We're not going to let you keep doing this,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But this, where it's like a more white collar thing, and like the
Mm-hmm.
immediacy of it, it does, bring up some issues that like are questionable. It's like, yes, they need to be held accountable, but in also still like a proper and just way as well.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
I think this was just like huge shockwaves just because of the way that she has presented herself for all these years. So you can
Mm-hmm.
never be in those places of like trying to be like, I'm telling everybody else on the cast how to act. I mean, Luann, which, ironically another Taurus, you think of like her being the
Mm-hmm.
countess and telling everyone how they need to act. And then she gets
Mm-hmm.
arrested for like drunken, behaviors and all of this stuff and acting kind of like an animal over the holidays, with her kind of breakdown emotionally. It's like you can't be pointing fingers because eventually it's all going to come back and get you as well. And
Very interesting, especially with Wendy as a Chiron and Sun in Gemini. Like, I don't recognize when the Spider-Man meme's happening, when really, like,
yes,
I should actually understand what's being mirrored back to me. She is going through her Mars return. So, again, Mars returns, don't have to mean bad or good. In this case, the Mars and Scorpio return. She has a natal Mars and Saturn in her chart. Like anytime you maybe step out of line and because Mars and Scorpio, there is a lot about like, I want things, I want power, I want wealth, I want proximity to power. And realistically, Saturn's there as a karmic check, a reality check. So it almost feels like she can never really like the moment she tries to lean too far into that, there's just going to be a snapback, like immediately, like the swift hand of the law, karma, like really on your ass. So we'll see what happens here with Wendy. They're out of jail. They release a statement. So, lots to come, I'm sure. Andy, we will need a camera for this. I need Andy and a
they
camera.
did. They did, and they did bring back the cameras. They're filming at
Yes.
Giselle, Ashley, and Karina. And if I don't know if you've caught up to see the premiere from last week,
Oh, with
but
Karen coming up.
but Giselle and Ashley talking about Karen and like I hope she's in the elderly section, with the AARP folks for her safety. I was like, these they are so unserious, like you can't make up these personalities. I could
So
watch,
good.
Giselle and Ashley were half of what made Love Hotel. So I mean,
Hmm.
they're like a comedic duo that's like unmatched. I can't. Giselle and
They're
Ashley,
so
honestly, better than
good.
Giselle and Robin.
I think so too. I think it's because Ashley is very
She and Hay.
mutable. Yeah, she's a Virgo rising, I believe, Gemini Virgo rising, and Giselle, I think, is an Aquarius rising. Like there's a lot of air between them too. So like the wit, the banter, the fun, like that is
Unmatched.
very air. But all right, down to the last headline of the week, which LOL, this was supposed to be a shorter episode, but I just can't stop talking, obviously. We get to Diane Keaton because I did want to pay our respects to the legend, the OG herself. I love that she doesn't think of herself as an icon, but she really was, and I think the greatest icons oftentimes don't think they're icons, but that's inherently just so ironically iconic. But where were you when you heard the news? I was depressed at home.
Well, I texted you the next day. I was at
Yes.
a winery and I was about half a bottle of red in, and someone just like turned over to me because, of course, pop culture queen of the group, and they were like, Diane just died. And I'm looking, no kidding, our wine educator who like we are friends, we do an annual wine weekend, long story short. They set up like this nice tasting for one of our stops where it was like a private
Hmm.
situation. And our wine educator's name was Diane. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Because I was, in the cups
Oh
already. I'm
my
like, Diane's right
God.
there. Nobody died. And then I like look at my phone. It's like five, yourself included, five different people being like, Diane Keaton, Diane Keaton, Diane Keaton. So I was not processing it right away because I was
Yeah.
processing grapes through my blood system. But um, so it was nice. I didn't cry, but it is so crazy. Like I haven't really
Hmm.
taken that in because again, when it's so many people, like everyone wants to have like the first reaction, the first post, the first like
Hmm.
message about it. Like they want to be on top of it. It's like such internet culture nowadays.
Yeah, yeah.
But she's like such a person where it's like I don't think that people think of her as like everyone's mom the way they do of other, you know,
Mm.
famous women in pop culture who pass away at a certain age. She's just like that person, like that quirky character that everyone finds something different about her that they resonate with, right? Like whether
Yeah.
it's like one of her characters, whether it's who she was um in personal life. Like I think she actually marked she was on the Ellen show and I remember this like years ago and her signature drink, ironically, it was red wine with ice in it. Like she just like chilled red wine and someone as a
Hmm.
joke started calling it the Diane Keaton. So I was thinking of that while I was at the wineries.
Oh,
But
cute.
things like that, either like her quirkiness, her advocacy, like she was a huge animal advocate. Her fashion, like to me, like I think her fashion really takes away a lot of it. I think she had
Yeah.
like a very like independent life. Like I haven't read back on it, but I think, like I don't know if she was ever formally married, or if she was, it was very
No.
brief. Right. She was never married,
Hmm.
which I, find interesting. Because I did, like that quick background on her for Because I Said So on one of my old episodes. And so
Hmm.
just like she did life the way she wanted to on her terms. And I think that's like what everyone should take away from that is like she was
Mm.
never pandering to anybody. And I think that's why there's so much admiration. She was never trying to campaign herself as any one person. Again, she's like one of our last actresses that's an actress. She's not businesswoman. She's not doing paid partnerships. She's not trying to like get that nostalgia paycheck. She was just like progressing through her career wherever she wanted
Hmm.
to go. And she was creating characters till the end. Cause, even down to, I think a lot of people are taking away like they think of her in Annie Hall, in Father of the Bride, in First
Mm.
Wives Club, in Because I Said So, Morning Glory, but like even down to book club, she was working
Yeah.
her whole career. She always just something's got to give. She was always just like this very unique person, and it's something you
Hmm.
can't replicate. And everyone kept saying
Mm.
a true original, which started to feel old at the end. I'm like, think of something else to say. But it is like she was just who she was, and she was never what anybody else, seemingly wanted her to be.
Yeah, you don't own me, right? Like that line, that scene in First Wives Club is just so, like I saw so many videos of that, getting posted
Oh,
on social
everybody posted the
media.
song. I
Yeah.
did, our friend group did watch the movie that night, as like a,
Mm.
wind down because like we were all just chilling out anyway. And someone was like, we should watch a Diane Keaton movie. And I was like, well, I can fire up my Apple TV.
Yeah, yeah,
Which was
yeah.
a win for me. I was like, anytime I can get someone to watch First Wives Club for the first time is a success in my book.
It's an amazing movie. It really is. Goldie Hawn, Bette Midler, and Diane Keaton. It's also fascinating when I look at her chart, like certain keywords, right? Like she's a true original. She never married. She was dedicated to work, and she was almost like the mother for all of us without maybe even explicitly thinking of her as the mother of all of us. And you see that naturally in the chart. She is an Aquarius moon. She is a Capricorn sun. She's a new moon baby-ish, eager for new beginnings, how to start, but also she's got longevity with Mars and Saturn in her chart in Cancer, and that's why she is a part of all these really like formative, nostalgic movies that really shape our understanding of, motherhood or what it means to be a woman or romance even, right? Because she even kind of flipped the rom-com on its head by virtue of, Annie Hall. It's like one of those, even though it's a romantic comedy, it's still a quirky and not, idealist. It's showing your insecurities. It's showing sort of this different side of romance. And even though it's also controversial because it's Woody Allen, but, Mia Farrow's already posted a tribute, so no one come for Diane after this.
Yes.
But it is interesting. She has a lot of Libra in her chart. So naturally fashion icon, naturally an artist. She's got the Jupiter in Libra, Chiron and Neptune. The Chiron in Libra is interesting considering she never did marry. She was a mom eventually. But it does make me wonder ultimately around like the ultimate fear of intimacy at the end of the day and needing space and not feeling maybe, you know, there could be enough space to contain all of her in a traditional type of relationship dynamic. She's also got a Moon Pluto opposition, which naturally indicates some complications with moms, but also the idea of, I would say, she's a deeply this is where you can think about her powerhouse emotional like delivery, even though it's like maybe restrained, even in the moments where she's like so frustrated, right? Like you really saw that raw energy, and I think people really felt it. And to me, that's the power of Moon Pluto. If you're able to channel your emotions in such a way into her performance, every role that she's played is something that she has felt. And I think, and it might not be all the roles, but I think the most memorable ones will have resonance with that. And so for her to have chosen this portal to transition, because this is how I view death. I view death as exit portals, that you get to choose what's a good one for you, where you feel like your story has ended. And I really do believe this was a necessary coming home. She did everything she needed to do right now in this lifetime. It was time to take this journey elsewhere. Venus and Saturn in opposition, Jupiter on her Mars and Saturn, um, Mercury and Mars in her 12th house, the moon in her eighth. Like there was just a lot about death symbolism. There was a lot of transformation. Whatever she needed to do next, her physical form in this current state would not be able to accommodate. So, yeah.
Yeah, I
Any.
like what you said about like based on her placements, the ability to like make people feel what she's feeling because
Mhm.
you know, some of it's restrained, but I also think of like her in like her wackiest roles. Like there's no one who's
Yes.
gonna shriek like Diane Keaton can shriek. You know,
Yes.
like when she's
Yes.
yelling in First Wives Club or when she's like shrieking in Because I Said So. Like I remember that was like my biggest point too when I was covering that movie recently this summer was like this movie is great despite like her character might kind of be a horrible person and mother if you were to really just look at it based on the actions, but it's Diane Keaton and she brings so much heart and charisma and like the sentimentality of like you see deep down where she's going with this. But
Mm-hmm.
she's just so like perfectly expressive and so sincere and like no one watches The Family Stone and doesn't cry. If you don't
Mm.
cry when she's doing her speech to her son, if you don't when
Oh.
she you know, her character has, spoiler, if it's been 20 years, has passed away by the next Christmas, and everybody has the picture of her with the child. You know, like all of those little elements is like she is so real. And I think those, there are different kind of actors. And for the actors who bring a part of themselves to each of the roles, like that's why they're so memorable because they're
Mm-hmm.
not just doing a facade or a lie. They're being a version of themselves within a character that was created by somebody else.
Mm. It's so interesting. It does, the Moon Pluto opposition does make me think that like what she was playing was her own mom in Because I Said So. And I don't actually
I could
know
see that.
too much about her family history and her dynamics. Like again, like this is like such a this is such a beautiful era of movie star where you don't know really anything about them outside of their work and what their work means to you. And, maybe there's something to be said about overexposure. We talked about that with Taylor Swift early on. Like when you get too overexposed, like it loses the magic and the allure of depth, maybe, of, what people want. But I can't I couldn't have thought of a better person to end the episode with. I'm still definitely going to be playing Diane Keaton movies on loop this week as I tend to my wounds. It's rainy AF here in New York, but
I was gonna say she's a good
Ruby,
fall, a good
she's
autumn
so
vibe.
good fall. Yes, yes, that is very true. That is very true. But I wanted to thank you for jumping on for a last minute science and headlines with me. We are going to be recording again our Victoria Beckham deep dive, so stay tuned for that release. Subscribe, 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 share with your Astro besties, and anything else you want to say, Ruby, before we jump on for our next conversation later today
In a few hours, yes.
in a few hours.
Follow, subscribe to No One's Guilty Pleasure on Spotify and follow on Instagram and X NOGP_pod. Have a Gilmore Girls
Amazing.
anniversary episode, speaking of autumn, so very resonant for the
Yes.
season as well as one of the most recent.
Amazing, amazing. Well, go check that out. And again, we'll be back soon with another episode of the Pop Astrologist Presents. Stay tuned, subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Bye.